Good afternoon, this is Sarita Jha. I'm going to teach you the subject called Business Research Methods. First chapter, we have done the meaning, definition, and features and nature of research. Now we are proceeding with the next step of research methodology, that is the process of research. Now, process of research, the first one you are having is defining research problem. It could be problem or objective, but first you have to decide what is the problem. Second one you are having is review the literature. Third one you are having is formulating hypothesis. Fourth one you are having is research design, the layout of research. Fifth one you are having is collection of data, the primary and secondary method. Next one you are having is analysis of those primary or secondary data. Next one you are having is interpretation of result, and last one you are having this report. Report is basically whatever you have searched, you will write in that particular report. So first, let's start with the first one of process of research. First one you are having is formulating the research problem. Now, problem, it could be problem or any objectives. So what is the objective and what is the problem? Suppose you are going to do a research for a new product into the new market. So it's a new product into a new market, which called an objective. You wanted to search for the new customer for your existing product. It could be an objective. But what is the problem? Suppose the existing product, there is a decline in sales of that particular existing product in that existing market. We'll call an problem. Now, there are two types of research problem: those which related to the nature of the product and those which related with the two variables. Means you are having like decline in sales. So what makes that product to be declined in that demand in that particular market? Suppose there is a decline in demand of that particular product. That reason is the one variable and your product is the another variable. So there is a relationship between two variables. So next one you are having is the finding out the essential topic for your research work. Second stage of research process is extensive literature survey. Now, what do you mean by literature? Literature means already written thesis or government report, or any scholars has done a mini research work, a pilot study, or anything which is documented in written form and being referred by you for your own purpose is called extensive literature survey. Why? What is the importance for this step? This particular step will give you the base for your research work. If you wanted to search new things, if you wanted to do a new innovative thing, you have to find out the base for that particular thing. So that base we will get it from review of literature. Now, from where you can get that information? Once the problem is formulated, a brief summary of it should be written down. First of all, you have to write what you have searched yet, and then extensive search will be proceed. Now, at this point, the researcher should undertake extensive literature survey conducted with the problem. For this purpose, the abstracting and indexed journals and published and unpublished bibliography can be reviewed. Then you can go for academic journals, reference proceedings, government reports, books, etc. must be tapped depending on the nature of the problem. Suppose if I'm going to do a research on government department, so where I will get that information? Of course, I will get that information with the help of government reports, or I will go for any other newspaper or any other journals where I can get that information. So these are the examples through which we can understand the information which is related to the literature review. Next, the third stage is called the development of working hypothesis. Now, what is hypothesis? It's a tentative assumption for your research work. If you conducting a research for decline in sales, then you should assume some sort of problem that you could imagine right now. You just have to find out what could be the reason behind decline in sales. This is the hypothesis hypothesis related to the problem. If there is a hypothesis, what could be the hypothesis for objectives? Give an example of objective is new product for the new market. So if wanted to introduce a new product to a new customer, so your objectives will be there will be a demand for that particular product in the market. Demand for that particular product is your assumption, and this is your hypothesis. You are assuming that, okay, my product will be having demand in the market. So that would be the objective or hypothesis for this particular research topic. Next one you are having is preparing the research design. Now this is the important part of any research work. So research design is basically the layout of research. Now layout of research will define you what could be included in that particular research design. It will have the research objectives. First of all, what you wanted to find out, that you have to mention first. Then you will have the brief introduction about written information about the hypothesis. Then you will have sampling unit, from where you will collect the sample, what could be the sampling unit, what could be the sampling frame, and where you are, what is your population. Population means what, that not literally population define where the data can be collected. Okay, so this preparing research design is the fourth stage of research process. So fifth stage is collecting the data. In dealing with real life problem, it is often found that data at hand are inadequate. For example, number of students using internet on daily basis, amount spent on mobile apps by the students or anybody else, amount spent, housewife spending habit, etc. Hence, it becomes necessary to collect data that are appropriate. There are several ways of collecting appropriate data which differ considerably in context of money cost, time, and other resources at the disposal of the researcher. What is primary data and what is secondary data? Primary data that is collected by the researcher from the first-hand sources. It is collected with the researcher's project in mind. It is taken into consideration what you are searching. You are collecting data for that directly from primary sources. It is called a primary data. Secondary data is data gathered from studies, survey, or experiment that have been run by other people for their sake, and you are just collecting to have better information of what you are searching for. Typically, a researcher will begin a project by working on secondary data because it is readily available. It is available in the market and you are taking it for your purpose. That is called secondary data. Example of primary and secondary data are: if you took a trip to trauma unit and interviewed the survivors, the data collected in that phase of your research would be the primary data, because you are personally going or visiting to that particular place and you are collecting those data from trauma unit or the trauma survivors. So this will be the primary data. If one of your interviewees put you in touch with survivor support group, as again a secondary unit and not a primary data. Next stage is the analysis of the data. Now, what do you mean by analysis? Whatever data you have been collected, primary and secondary, that will be analyzed. Secondary data is already analyzed data. You need not to work on that more. But primary data is the raw data that have been collected by you. So after data have been collected, the researcher turns to task of analysis of that data. The analysis of data requires a number of closely related operations, such as establishment of categories, application of these categories to raw data through coding, tabulation, and then drawing statistical references. Unwieldy data should necessarily be considered into a few manageable groups and tables for further analysis. Means for analysis of data, you need to give a specific coding, classification, tabulation, so that you can analyze what data comes from which category. Means you have to divide these data into a specific coding, classify these data and tabulate these data so that you can determine what could be the result. So the stages of data will include coding, editing, tabulation, and graphical representation. Now, what is coding? Is giving us such specific objective. Like for example, you have been searching for more information, gathering from different areas. From which data you have been collected from which area? Like for example, you have some data you have collected from Bihar, some data you have been collected from Assam. So different code you have to give to different states, so that you will define which data, which people are saying what about flood trauma, that incidents happen in every year. Then editing is just discarding the unnecessary part of the data and tabulating those edited data in a specific systematic manner is called tabulation. And then it comes to graphical representation. The next stage is the hypothesis testing. After analyzing the data as stated above, the researcher is in a position to test the hypothesis, if any he has been formulated earlier. Now there are two different ways through which you can find this hypothesis testing. One is the parametric way and another one is the non-parametric ways. Now, what is parametric and what is non-parametric? Whenever you can find out the mean, median, mode and standard deviation of any statistics, it comes under parametric. And when you're not able to find out the mean, median, mode and standard deviation or any statistical formulation you cannot apply to any data, that comes under non-parametric. Now, under parametric, what kind of testing is coming? Under parametric, t-test, z-test and f-test, which is also called ANOVA, is coming. Now, what comes under non-parametric? Non-parametric, basically chi-square test, comes under non-parametric. After analysis of data, next stage is generalization and interpretation. If a hypothesis is tested and upheld several times, it may be possible for the researcher to arrive at specific generalization, that is to build a theory. As a matter of fact, the real value of research lies its ability to arrive at certain generalization. It is important for any researcher to reach a specific point through which you can define others or people about the topic of the research. For that, I will give you example of, if suppose you are doing research on the price structure of onion from last 6 months. So after completing 2-3 months, you could able to generalize that what could be the trend, what is the trend that going in the market. Especially after analysis of data, collected data you will analyze, you will find out that this is the trend, and after completion of a perfect analysis of data, you could able to interpret that what is the result. First of all, here this is the last stage of any research work. Here you have to give 100%. Whatever you have searched from that 6 months or 5 years or 3 years, whatever it is. But if you are doing research, whatever you have searched in that particular process, you have to give 100% in this particular reporting. You have to report whatever you have seen during your research work, whatever you have find out, whatever you have what could be the prospect in future for that research topic. And here you have to mention everything. And the last stage is called a bibliography. Bibliography is basically reference part. It is basically informing others from where you have been collected data. If you have been collected data from government report, you have been collected data from magazine, you have been collected data from newspaper, you have been collected data from any sources. That source is supposed to be mentioned in that reference or bibliography. And here your research process will be over, and that's it. Thank you.